Hi everyone. We're here again at home instead doing one of the programs for Armstrong, and this one is a very exciting one for me to have you see because it's on Purple Martins. If you don't know a lot about Purple Martins, by the time you see this entire presentation from Bill Wenger, who's with me today, you will know so much about Purple Martins you'll want to go out and start doing this yourself. So we're going to spend a lot of time going through a lot of things. I'm going to try and ask Bill all those questions you're thinking about and see what we can do. So Bill, tell us, I announced who you are. How did you get started in this?
Well, I started off as a high school person coming up here to Palmatuming, and I noticed this Purple Martin house on Lynn Road in Espyville, PA. And I always was intrigued with all the different birds that were sitting on that big apartment style house. And in 1972, we were up here fishing, and it rained for a week or so. It was Hurricane Agnes came through. And from that point on, I never saw any Purple Martins. And I never did figure out what it was. And in 2005, I noticed a tree swallow hanging on one of my bluebird houses. And I was like, is that a tree swallow? Is that a Purple Martin? And I wasn't quite sure, so I started looking into it. And in that winter of 2005, I ended up buying a Purple Martin house to put up in our yard in Espyville.
And did you start with an apartment house?
I did start with an apartment house. It had crescent entrances, which is good, instead of the round holes, which they had years ago. And in 2000, I didn't get any Martins. And in 2008, I started volunteering for the Pennsylvania Game Commission site at the Palmatuming Learning Center. So I started getting my feet wet with Purple Martins then, maintaining their houses and things like that. And I kept playing the dawn song, which is a way to attract them to your house. And in 2012, I had one pair of Martins, and that was great after 7 years of trying.
Oh, wow.
So in 2013, the Martins didn't come back. So they migrate to Brazil, which is over 4,000 miles. So it's a long trek down there and a long trek back. So you're not guaranteed to get, one or two birds back the following spring. So I kept trying. I started different colonies. One's at the Espyville Marina, one's at the Lionsville Hatchery. And I started taking care of the colony at St. Philip's Church, which your father had prior to that.
And were they all the 14, the big ones at that point?
They were
the apartment. I always call them apartment houses.
Yeah, they were mostly apartment houses. Yes, various different types. And in 2016, I finally got 2 pairs of Martins, and from that point on, I'm up to about 31 pair.
Oh, wow.
So once you get a Martin colony started, they come back to the same yard the following year, as long as there's no predators or anything like that were attacking them the year before. So they're like your birds because they come back to your yard every spring.
Now, when did you start the Lakeland Purple Martin Association?
In 2009, Joe and Jesse Arnett got together with me, and we started the the Lakeland Area Purple Martin Association.
Well, it's funny because way before that, I had a home down behind the old cow shed, and my mother had seen one of the old apartment houses once. So that's what she had. Where she had it was the metal one. So she'd put it up, and she'd wait for the Purple Martins, and she'd get wrens after wrens after wrens after sparrows, the whole thing. And it wasn't until I went to one of the association meetings over, I think they were held at the church then, weren't they?
Yes.
Our Lady Queen of the Americas.
Yes.
And I heard your presentation, and I said, okay, that apartment that I have is going down. You got to do something more. So that got me started because we couldn't get anything. Every year was up, nothing, until I started doing a lot of the things that you talked about now. And I think, I told you the last time, I've got 27 houses on my property, and I've got lots of Purple Martins, and they do come back.
Decades ago. Well, it started off with the Indians. The Indians put up gourds, natural gourds.
Okay.
And they realized that the Purple Martins would live in those gourds, and they would send out alarm calls if any type of predator would come into their little village. And the Purple Martins realized that if they were closer to the Indian village, that they were going to be safer from other predators. So they started creating this relationship together. So over the centuries, actually, Purple Martins have now evolved into only living pretty much in housing supplied by man. So they've done a transition shift, what they call it. So, you know, Purple Martins need your man-made housing put up, and it can be in the form of a wooden house, a gourd, or a metal house.
And they also like to be where people are too, don't they?
They like people.
Well, yeah. Years ago, I had softball teams out there or anything else that I had going on, and I'd say, oh, you can't do this. I'm going to have a problem with the Purple Martins. Yeah. They could have cared less that there were people everywhere.
Right. They get along really well with people. I walk under their housing every day and talk to them. My dog runs out, and they don't have any signs of problems with the dog out there.
Wait a minute. Wait. You talk to them?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you talk to plants? You probably talk to your plants
birds,
too.
Yes.
It's just birds.
Just the birds. I said good morning, and I'm happy. I mean, they've just flew 4,000 miles back to be at my at my cottage, at our house here, and I'm happy to see them. You know, I'm still alive, and they're alive, and it really makes like spring fulfills the thing about springtime.
Maybe I'm going to start talking to mine.
You could do that.
It might work.
Just don't make sure nobody else is around.
I was going to say, where do we want to start? Let's take people all through this. I think you usually start with, do you have a place to have them? So is that a good starting point?
Let me step back a little bit. Like I said, 1972, Hurricane Agnes came through and killed just about every Purple Martin in Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio, New Jersey, Maryland, because it stayed and kind of hovered over this area for such a long time. After 3 days, if martins cannot find insects, and they only eat flying insects, they start to die off. So 3-day period is the time with no food in 3 days. They start to perish. At that point in 1972, they were in the middle of nesting, so they had a lot of young ones as well. So the young ones passed away, and then the parents started dying. And before people even knew it, their martin colonies were gone. And when was that? 1972.
Wow.
In 1987, they created the Purple Martin Conservation Association. Jamie Hill from Edinburgh. That was to help Purple Martins across the country and Canada as well to get better aware of things that they could do to increase the Purple Martin population. Prior to that, people would have a house up on a fixed pole. They could not do any checks. They could not raise and lower it just once a year.
That's what I had.
Yeah, a lot of people still do out there. But they created a system where you could have a winch or a rope and pulley where the house could go up and down, so you could check the cavities. They made larger entrances. Back then, the entrances were 6 inches by 6 inches, and like a cube. And the Purple Martin was roughly 7 inches long. So if you got 2 7-inch Purple Martins in there, plus a nest of young ones, there was no room. It was cramped. They had round holes back then, so an owl or a hawk, raccoon could climb the pole. They could just reach in that round hole and pull the young ones out or pull the adults out.
Oh, heavens.
So then the PMCA in 1999 put up some houses at the Pontotoning Learning Center and the Pontotoning Waterfowl Management Building. And they had like 2 pair in each of the houses that year. So it took 27 years after Hurricane Agnes came through to get Purple Martins at Pontotoning, which is a wonderful place with the swamps and the lakes and the dragonflies and all the different bugs.
Are there as many other places you and I are both from this area, but are there Purple Martins like near the Pittsburgh area and all through the state, or are they mostly kind of over on our side of the state?
Well, they're mostly, there's probably more on the eastern side of the state.
Really? Okay.
But then you have the mountains come through, and they're not fond of the mountains. They like the flatter areas. And then on the western part of the state, where it starts to level off and go into Ohio, we start to see a lot more Purple Martin colonies. I was just checking last night on the Purple Martin Conservation Association's website. There's a scout arrival study that anytime a martin landlord sees a Purple Martin arrive for the first time, they put that entry into the scout arrival form. So people up north can actually see the Purple Martin migration from the southern coast of Florida all the way up as they migrate into this area. So it's really interesting. And also another thing, the PMCA, which is short for the Purple Martin Conservation Association, they will have a active cam in one of their gourds that you can watch, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day of the Purple Martins actually nesting in there, putting in nesting material, laying eggs, the young hatching, and the feeding, the whole cycle. There's a lot of information on the PMCA's website.
Oh, okay, good. That's a good place to look.
So in 1999, they started the colonies at the Palmatuming Learning Center. And in 2008, I started volunteering there, and we put in more housing. And now I'm taking care of 12 Purple Martin colonies in this area. They start from Rolling Fields up in Conneautville, the nursing home, down to Palmatuming Dam.
Wow.
And that's just the ones that I take care of. Last year we fledged 972 Purple Martins.
In our immediate area here.
In the houses that I had.
And that's not, now, is that counting the people that, I know that we can do this sometimes, is we can email you and tell you what we have also at my place. Is that counting those, or are these just the ones that you were in charge of?
These are the ones I was personally in charge of.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more than that, because a lot of people aren't involved with the Lakeland area Purple Martins, and a lot of people don't really spend that much time caring about it.
Right, there's a lot of Amish colonies that love Purple Martins, and they have 3 or 4 houses up. Andrew Troyer at the Bird's Paradise up in Conneautville, they have 10 of these houses in their yard, and there's 4 sections to this house. It's called a Troyer T14, so Andy developed it, and it's called a T14 for T for Troyer and 14 for cavities. So there's 14 different cavities, nesting pairs that actually can nest in that box.
And we're going to also include on our program today how people can go up to Conneautville and see his place, because it's phenomenal. You go up there and say, I think I'll take, wait a minute, I don't want just one of those, I want one of these, and what about this, and what about, I mean, he has everything.
Yes, yes.
What a place to go.
You can buy Purple Martin products at Andy Troyer's location in Conneautville, and or through the Purple Martin Conservation Association. They have a website, and you can order products through there as well.
They send you that catalog, I think, every year.
They send you a catalog.
Right.
So this is from the Purple Martin Conservation Association. It's an informational pamphlet, so you can call and get one of these sent to you. They also have a product catalog
that comes out every year.
It comes out every year. It has different products in it. And while we're on that product, or that thing, this is a catalog from Andy Troyer, the Bird's Paradise, and it has all kind of Purple Martin as well as Bluebird products and Baltimore Oriole products in here as well. So there's a lot of information in these pamphlets as well. So it's worthwhile to just call up there and ask them. At the end of the program, I have a contact listing with my name and phone number, email, as well as the phone numbers for the PMCA and for Andy Troyer's place.
Great. That'll really help people, because this is overwhelming a little bit. So
there is a lot to learn.
Right.
When I first put up my house in 2005, I thought, build it and they will come. Well, that wasn't quite it.
Wasn't that the softball or baseball show?
Yes, that's
right.
Yep. So I did learn a lot, because it took me 12 years to get Purple Martins, because there wasn't that many around then. But now people are putting up houses and getting them in their first year or their second year.
Wow.
Now, the best thing to do is the key for getting a Purple Martin colony started is the location. And they say the 3 best things is location, location, and location. You need a big open area. Trees shouldn't be closer than 75 to 100 feet to the Purple Martin house. They compare Purple Martins to airplanes, where they glide into a house, and it's not like a helicopter that they can come in and go down in amongst trees. So you want a wide open area for Purple Martins. I
like that comparison. I saw that on the paper that you had sent me, whether you want to be a helicopter or a gliding plane.
Right.
I never would have thought of that.
Right. If you have a big open field to your location, that's perfect, because they go out over the open field. If you have power lines or telephone lines, they like to sit there and perch and preen themselves. You want to locate your Purple Martin housing, if you can, definitely away from trees, but maybe outside a kitchen window or off of a deck somewhere where you can sit and enjoy them during the summer. They are something really, they're aerial, really good aerial acrobats. They come down from heights of 100, 200 feet, and they just close their wings and just come down like a bullet. You can go right into their
Do I have to have water on my property?
No. A lot of times, in most cases, well, in all cases, purple martins will get most of the moisture from insects, the insects that they eat. So you don't need a pond or anything like that.
Lake or pond's not necessary.
No, there's hundreds of thousands of purple martin colonies out there that don't have ponds within a mile or two.
Could you do it in a city?
There have been areas in the country that people have started
Or
colonies.
like a suburb or something like that?
In Griggsville, Illinois, that was known as the martin capital of the world.
Oh my gosh.
They had a large electrical tower, and they had hundreds of purple martin houses on that. And it's still in place today, and a lot of people, a lot of landlords go there just to help clean out the houses and do that on that tower.
Right. Okay, so we've got that. We have the perfect location.
Yes, the location is perfect. The next thing is the type of housing that you want.
Okay.
What they found is that it seems like most of the time a purple martin will usually prefer nesting in something that maybe he or she was born in. So if they were born in a gourd, they are most likely to possibly nest in a gourd. I've had a metal house up here since 2005, and I have never had a purple martin nesting in that metal house. In the one that
I never did either.
In the one I purchased. Now, I do have some good. They're called Lone Star houses. One is at the hatchery. One is at the Espiville Marino, and one is at the Pontotoning Dam. That they love those houses. One actually, it's called the Lone Star Alamo house. It mimics this T14. It's a metal house, but is made like this T14 in that shape. So there are some that they do like.
A lot of the big ones that I see like this that have been made by the Amish, just out of curiosity, are some of the cavities inside of them too small, or have they also adjusted now and made some of their purple martin houses with the bigger cavities inside? Because some of them seem to have been up there forever.
Most of the houses that the Amish would make would probably be after a design similar to this. This is one of the best houses out there. It's got the 3/4 inch wood, so it's insulated from the cold and the heat as well. So if you have nesting birds in there in July and it's 90 degrees, the wood helps to keep it cooler inside.
What's it cost me to get a, T14? What are they running in price? Just
Some
give me a
of these
ballpark.
with the pole and the house are roughly $1,500.
And that'd be the house, the pole,
And
the winch,
to
the
wind it
rope,
up.
the whole
Yes.
thing.
Now they'll last for decades. You take care of them, put some paint on them, they will last for decades. Now a little cheaper version, I wouldn't say cheaper, more cost-effective version, is to get a pole and add gourds to it. Now there's years ago, decades ago, they used to make these natural gourds. So when I started off, I had heard that they might like the natural gourd because it's dark inside. So I created this gourd, took this off like a big mayonnaise jar or something,
my Lord.
and glued it on there so I could access them and look to see what was going on. And I have somewhat of a starling-resistant entrance here and a little lid here to keep rain out of the nest.
So they can just have a little bit of shade.
They have some shade, keeps the water out.
I
That's the
know.
key. Then they started producing the gourds in different plastics. Now this is one of Troyer's first gourds. It's called a horizontal gourd. This has been updated. Has a vent on the back.
I don't have that on
That
mine.
can vent in a hot summer.
Can you add that to them?
Yes, this was just screwed, drilled out and screwed
really?
in there.
Okay.
Yes. It has a tunnel, and this is a starling-resistant entrance. Decades ago, they just had round entrances, and hawks or owls or raccoons could just go in there and reach in there. Nothing this deep because there were smaller cavities at that point. So they started going to these starling-resistant entrances so that it would help keep starlings out. So there are different types of birds that you don't want. You don't want any bird to nest in your purple martin
Right.
housing except purple martins.
I think that's what I have. It looks awfully similar to mine.
So this is the Troyer horizontal gourd. This is a Troyer vertical gourd. Has a porch and everything. They sit on the porch. They sit up here. It has air vents in here that's cut in.
Mine also has. Mine has the screw off section on the side too.
Okay, right.
Okay.
This is a excluder gourd. It was made by Duke Snyder in Butler, PA.
Really?
So Pennsylvanians, and especially in Northwest Pennsylvania, were right in the center of the hub of the Purple Martin industry. They had the PMCA up in Edinburgh, which has since moved to Erie, PA. They had the Birds Paradise in Conneautville. They had Duke Snyder in Butler, PA. And Jamie Hill, that created a gourd also. It was called the Super Gourd. That was one of the first plastic gourds. But since then, Troyers have bought the Super Gourd business off of Jamie Hill. We also had Diane Obenlander, who made the gourd racks, the metal aluminum gourd racks up in Fairview, Pennsylvania. So this was like, you know, the central part of the Purple Martin.
This is the size I have. This one here looks bigger. It is?
It's a different shape. Duke fashioned this off of an original gourd, and it is a little heavier. The thing I like about this one, there is a trap that you can put on here. So if you have a house sparrow or starling, you can actually set this trap in here. And
you have to watch how he does this because I don't have that. I have the cover. We'll talk about the cover that's on mine.
so this is a little metal piece that has a round entrance here. So it goes into here and through a tiny hole in the front of the tunnel. And there I go, I got it. So it sits like this.
Can you get a copy of that here? My cameraman here.
So it sits like this, and a bird, house sparrow, starling, if they can get in there, go in, and they actually push the metal rod closed, and then you can trap it.
Okay, now wait. But if I have Purple Martins in there, am I going to have anybody else try and get in? Yes.
Well, that's one of those issues that is kind of iffy thing that you have to be very careful and monitoring it all the time.
I could catch a
You could catch
Purple
a
Martin in there
too.
Okay, all right.
Now I've used this. If I've found a Purple Martin at my location that has a band on it, then I can use this type of thing where I watch him go in and he sets off the trap. Then I can reach in and gradually just pick him up and then take the band numbers off, and I can report the band so that we can find out where he was actually banded at.
Oh my heavens.
So it has multiple uses.
Wow.
This I added just for them to help perch.
That's cute. I don't have
And
that.
sometimes after the birds fledge, which is when the young ones leave the nest, you know, you could have 3 or 4 sitting here. So it really looks, you know, good and makes a nice picture.
Before they get ready to
leave.
leave and get nervous about their big departure.
I would suggest if anybody's getting into this, unless you really like the looks of the T14, you could go with the gourd rack. You can get one pole.
what I did.
You can add 4 gourds to it. And if you get Purple Martins, you can add more gourds the next year. You know, my Father's Day Christmas presents was always
Our
a gourd
gourds.
or two somewhere
Yeah.
along the line. It was something related to Purple Martins.
What is it? I seem to think that a gourd runs somewhere between $20 and $25. Is that right? Or
They're
they
around
want more?
25 or so right now.
Okay.
Yes, and you can get gourds through the PMCA or through Troyers. The one thing nice about Troyers, they're close enough you could place an order and just go up and pick it up. So if anybody's interested in putting up housing this year, because we still have an opportunity between now and say the middle of June, almost the end of June, to attract Purple Martins to a new colony.
Are the ones that are coming to us maybe just in Florida, or are they on their way? Or are they all here already?
Okay.
How long does it take them to get here?
So, actually, here is a picture from the PMCA has a membership that you get 4 quarterly magazines. This is one of them. This is one that just come out the other day. It's a nice picture. It has comments in there from landlords across the country, different things to do, different scientific things that they're working on. In the Amazon is where these birds go to winter.
Oh, really?
They go to the Amazon to winter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's a really good thing to get. It's 4 years.
For a minute there.
In this magazine, they had banded these birds with what they call geolocator and GPS tags. It's a little backpack that they put on the martins. And this came out started about 10 years ago, that they were able to get the electronics small enough to put a little backpack on a bird, and they could follow its course around, once they leave the colony.
That cracks me up. They have a
So
backpack on them.
these were banded in New Jersey. Now, this purple martin since this is spring, we'll go with this one. They left Brazil on this particular bird left Brazil. One bird
Oh,
left Brazil on April 11th. He arrived in New Jersey on May 2nd. So at 16 days, he flew over 4,000 miles. So they can keep track of where they're at. And now they're studying different areas in the Amazon to keep them from being timbered out and stuff, so that they can preserve these roofs, because all the birds from North America go down to the Amazon to spend the winter. Our winter, they go down there.
They're smart.
So once they make up their mind that they're migrating north, and a lot of it has to do with the wind. If they get a good southerly wind, which they can take advantage of, that will help alleviate a lot of the stress and the endurance of flying to the north.
Do they fly in flocks, a lot of them at one time?
In most cases, there's in ones and twos and things like that.
That's all?
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to see like a whole swarm of purple martins coming in.
Not like starlings in the summer where
or
you
the
see
bluebirds
hundreds or whatever. No.
Right, okay, gotcha.
They're in small flocks. So yeah, once they get in their mind that they're going north, and it has to do with the weather and the lunar phases and everything, they just make a beeline back to their colonies.
When did this one arrive? May?
This left on April 11th and arrived on May 2nd. So it's 16 days.
So he's already here, but are there some that could be still making their way up this way?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Now you have the adult birds. They're called ASY, or after second year. So once they're in their third year of life, they get the purple molting or colors of the feathers, and they don't change after that. Whether if you have a 3-year-old bird or a 9-year-old bird, they're going to look the same. They're not going to change colors.
And my question is, how long does a purple martin live?
Usually they live 4 to 5 years. It's funny you brought that up.
Yeah, I'm concerned now about them.
Andy Troyer, who has over 150, 175 pair, he had this bird show up last spring. It was a 10-year-old bird. It's one of the oldest that they've known.
And because it had the...
It had the bands on. And he read the bands, and they knew it was banded at his colony 10 years ago.
So it made that trip 10 times.
They felt that it had over 100,000 miles on it, going back to Brazil and back for 10 years.
Oh, my Lord.
Now, he hasn't seen this bird come back this year yet.
He got tired.
Well, hopefully he got tired and he shows up soon.
Yeah, isn't that something?
So that was really spectacular to find a 10-year-old bird. I think they have found a 13-year-old bird at one point, but that was just like a freak accident.
And they never stay here. They couldn't survive if they stayed.
No, they only eat flying insects. And so once they go through their nesting process, they go into a pre-migratory roost, and then they head south. And everybody thought it would be a slow process going south, because what's the hurry? I mean, it's the middle of August, September. There's bugs everywhere. But when they get in the idea of going, they go not quite as fast, but they head south to the Amazon within a month or so.
Some of our people, of course, have watched the program that Mark did on the bluebirds, and I never realized that they basically do stay here, and they hover in the nest that they were maybe born in.
Right.
And that's amazing, and I never knew that. So now that I know that, now I see more of them. But I didn't realize, and these guys have to go because of what they eat, and also that's just what they've done all their life, I guess.
Yes, and the thing was, when they put on these geolocators and GPS tags, they were surprised. I think the first bird they found left Edinburgh, was in Atlanta, Georgia the next day within 24 hours.
Oh, my Lord.
So, I mean, they were just, what's the hurry? But once it's almost like if you're going on vacation to Myrtle Beach, you get in the car and you just make sandwiches and you just drive straight there. Yep.
Huh. Yep. Okay, so now we know about the location, we know about the different houses, the T14, we know about the gourds, the original gourds. Okay, is there anything else we need to know about, we need to get? We also, if we're going to put them up, we're going to have to get the pole.
Right.
We're going to have to get the winch, we're going to have to get the rope and all that stuff.
A lot of those come in packages. You can get them all in one. You could, you know, add 4 gourds, 6 gourds, whatever.
Right.
The poles come with it. Originally starting off, I had an old pole that I figured I would just save some money and make it myself. And it took hours and hours, and by the time that I got everything put together, I was like, you know, I really didn't save much this way.
No, probably not.
And in fact, the very first pole, I did not have it go up and down. And it was just on a fixed pole. And a house sparrow started building a nest in there. So we went to pull out the house sparrow. I was up 15 feet on this ladder. My wife was holding the ladder. And she said, this pole's starting to bend. And I just fell right to the ground. And fortunately didn't break anything, but I was at Meadville Hospital. But yeah, you want something that can go up and down, whether it's a rope pulley or a winch and a wire.
Well, I went the whole act whenever I did it, and it's so much easier to take care of. And then if you take care of the pole and the rope and the winch and the gourds and all that, you got a pretty easy thing to deal with.
Yeah.
It's not that tough.
A lot of times we'll take these in for the winter, and a lot of times I'll just leave them out for the winter. It depends if you have the storage.
Some people leave mine. Maybe I should just leave mine out, because we take them down, we clean them, take everything out, and find out. Sometimes, of course, we might find some dead birds in there.
Right.
So I could really leave them up.
You could leave them up, yes. They'll have some wear and tear, an extra almost 6 months of wear and tear out in the weather. But if you don't have the storage capability, you could just leave them out. If you have the storage, then put them inside.
All right, but now other birds might go in there in the spring and in the fall or in the winter.
Well,
not in the spring, but in the fall or winter.
There are ways to block these off.
That's what I think I told you I had.
There is a white
it looks like that, doesn't
thing.
it?
It looks like this, where you can leave over there so no birds can get in the winter. I've taken white foam insulation and just cut it to fit and just stick it here. A noodle, pool noodle. You can cut those in slices and just stick them in the hole so the birds can't get in there. And that way, because you don't want other birds to get comfortable going in and out of here during the winter, because once spring comes, they're going to think, oh, I can nest here too. So you want to keep other birds out from here, out of your martin.
Well, there's an advantage to that, because by the time we clean all of ours out and then let them out for a while and then let them totally dry before I store them, it'd be a lot easier for me to just put these on the front and let it go all winter. I might have to try that.
Right.
It takes some, it had a little bit of, not damage, but it's wear and tear though.
Right.
Because I don't have that deal. Mine look like they're brand new practically.
Right.
Okay, I have all my questions answered for that. What's our next topic?
Well, we want to get into, the migration here. Birds get back into this area somewhere around April 1st. That's the very first birds coming in here. We can find that out from the scout report. If I recall, my first bird came in this year was on March 28th. And the 2 years prior, it was March 30th. So depending on the weather, they can come in around April 1st. Now that's only 1 or 2 birds gradually come in, and then the rest will come in gradually over the next month or 2. Now these are the after second year birds, or the adult birds. So once they start coming in there, and they're wrapping up their migration into the area here at May 15th or May 16th, the second year birds are coming in. They're the subadults, they're called. They were born last year. So they're starting to come into the area now, and they're looking for new nesting areas. The adult birds, since they nested at a place last year, whether it was your place,
any place around here,
or the Learning Center, or the Lionsville Spillway, they will normally go there to nest. So you won't be able to, in most cases, attract those birds to your place. So the big thing with the second year birds that are coming back now, they've never nested before. They were born last year, now they're coming back for the very first time. So now they're looking for places to nest at. And these are the birds that are most likely to start new colonies. And they will continue into coming back in until almost the late June time frame.
Do I have to clean? Do I have to do anything to accommodate the inside of the gourd for them to arrive?
No, same thing as the adult birds.
I use pine needles, I think.
Yeah, we put pine needles in. Now it's not so much for the new birds coming in, but the very first birds that come back here, they come back in April 1st. April, we can have some very cold weather after that point. So what we do, these are nest trays. And we just put
Oh, my
pine needles,
heavens.
pine straw in here. And they go in there and they start making a circle. They create a nest bowl and they lay their eggs right in here.
Does that come with this?
They're extra.
This is
They're
extra.
So these are nice though, that you can just pull it out. You can count the eggs, count the young, and just slide it back in.
Okay, because with ours, we have to open it up and put the pine needles in and then close it up again.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The difference between the Troyer T14 and the gourds themselves. So the birds that come back first are the adult birds. They, right before, during the last couple weeks, we did have the cold spell that affected some of our birds. The cold spell lasted 4 days, and some of the birds that had come back were dying off because there was no insects flying. 50 degrees is about the mark where insects will fly. So if the weather's below 50 degrees, if it's real windy or raining, bugs don't fly and the martins don't eat.
Right.
So,
that's what we had.
Yeah. And depending on the location, and if you have an active colony from the year before, then some of your birds are going to come back and hit that time frame that was in the first week of May. The second year birds are coming back now, so they weren't affected by that cold spell. So they'll be looking around. They'll be fighting with some of the males, going after the females. And at some point they're going to say, I'm tired of fighting this male. I'm just going to go start my new colony and go somewhere else and nest.
For something else.
So
if they don't have gourds and if they don't have this, where do they go?
Well, in most cases, they would have to go out and find these places.
They'd have to find these.
They would find, yeah, housing supplied by man.
Oh, okay.
There's very few places now
That was my
anymore
question.
that they nest in the wild, like Conneaut Swamp. There could be, I noticed a tree swallow last Wednesday, it was actually Thursday, in a snag along this Conneaut Swamp, nesting in there. That's the first time I've seen that in a while. But usually they'll nest in bluebird
So
boxes.
unless we as humans take the time to put up gourds and T14s and stuff like that, they really need our help.
Right, they do.
Absolutely. Okay, that's important.
The one thing, if you're starting a new colony, you can have some problems with house sparrows, starlings, bluebirds, tree swallows. Now what we've done is we'll end up putting up a bluebird house, say 40 to 50 feet away from your martin house. So hopefully the bluebird will go into this house and nest in here. Leave your purple martin housing away alone. You can leave that blocked up so they can't get in there. In the same way with tree swallows, they can nest in these boxes, or they have different types of gourds for tree swallows as well. So that helps as far as once your martins come back, they find your place. They're not being chased by bluebirds or tree swallows because they're territorial as well. If you have problems with house sparrows, you can buy what they call a Van Oort trap. So it's a Van Oort trap, sits in like that. You put 2 screws into your front of your house here. You close it up and a bird goes in and steps on that little trigger and closes it, and then you can get rid of and dispose of your house sparrow. He's stuck inside. You have to be very careful because it could be a bluebird, could be a tree swallow. But if it's a non-native species, like a house sparrow, you can remove it and get rid of it.
Wait a minute. What can I remove? You just said if they're non-native.
A non-native species is a house sparrow and a starling, European starling. They were brought over from Europe in the mid-1800s to late 1850s or 80s, and they were non-native birds, so they weren't a native bird of this country, and they just started multiplying like crazy.
They did, and we can get rid of them.
And you can get rid of them with no problem.
Okay.
But you don't want to harm a native bird like a tree swallow, bluebird, things like that.
Okay.
So, so you have purple martins. They're flying around your colony. You want to just keep other birds from nesting in your house because, like I said, they will chase your martins away. And the last thing you want to do is put up housing for a purple martin and see tree swallows chasing your purple martins away. So they start nesting in the last week or two. The older birds, the adult birds, have been taking nesting material in and adding to the pine straw. Sometimes they'll take the pine straw out and put corn stalks in, small pieces of corn. Soybean, they're out in a soybean field across from our place, putting those different pieces of the stalk into the housing. And then they'll lay the eggs. A couple days before they lay eggs, they'll start taking green leaves in. What they do that for is they feel that the green leaves will let off an odor or a scent that keeps insects or parasites from forming in the nesting material. Pretty neat when you see a brown nest with nice new green leaves and white eggs right over top.
Perfect.
It looks like a perfect nest, yes. They start incubating the day before the last egg is laid. Now, older Purple Martins will lay usually 5 to 7 eggs. 5 to 6 is the average.
I think I asked you this before we started, but they lay 1 egg a day?
They lay 1 egg a day.
I didn't know that before.
And for 4 or 5 days. So what we do now is we usually check the Purple Martin houses to see when that first egg is laid. So if we look and there's 4 eggs, we know that that first egg was laid 4 days prior. And we can record that date. And we know actually when those birds are supposed to hatch and when they're going to fledge 28 days later.
And how long after they are laid do they hatch?
16 days.
16 days after they're laid, they'll hatch?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So only the female incubates the eggs. She has a brood patch. They lose their feathers on their belly, so the heat from their body absorbed by the eggs so that the egg can develop. They continually turn the eggs so that all parts of the egg is incubated. So you can, when the PMCA puts up their nest cam, you'll see the egg, the mother in there moving the eggs around and then sitting on them. The male will actually go in there and guard them and sit on them, but he can't incubate because he doesn't have that brood patch.
And he's probably not smart enough to do it anyway.
Probably not.
Probably
No,
not.
probably
We'll let that
not.
up to the women.
The women do choose the gourds and where they're going to stay.
Oh, do they?
So the male may say, hey, I really like this one here. And she looks at it and she says, I like this one here. We're going to be here.
Really? They truly make the decision?
The female makes the decision.
Oh, I like
Could you
this.
believe that? You know?
I do. I like this species. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah. Oh,
Show that picture there.
The PMCA took these pictures one each day. So you had the pipping egg, which is when they start to hatch. So they have a little tooth on the end of their nose that they start to peck on the egg, and it actually cracks the egg open. And then here's hatching day, which is once they come out of the egg, and 1 day, 2 days, all the way through. So when you get a Purple Martin young in your hand and you're checking, you can actually lay it on this laminated sheet and say, oh, this one is 9 days old.
Do you do that?
I do, yeah. I mean, I get to the point now where their eyes open around 8 to 10 days. So I can, tell by some of the things, they start to show these black feathers coming out of these sheaths at 11 days. And I also know from the records that I keep when they're first laid and when they're hatched, approximately how old they'll be.
I'll probably thank you 100 times, but you know more about this than I can't. I can't imagine anybody knows more than this than you do.
My wife says it's obsession. So I'm
It
obsessed.
is, yeah. My heavens.
So while we're talking about this is an adult bird. It's all purple. So he's 3 years old or older. This is a subadult male. You can see the spots on his chest.
Subadult.
And they have a purplish neck, and their head is more purplish. So it's a subby. They call them second year. And what was nice back when I was getting these visiting my site, I could say this bird was here yesterday just because of the sequence of dots and where they're located.
What does your wife say about all this? Does she have interest in it too?
A little bit.
A little bit, just enough to.
Yeah, once I get going too far, she just says that's enough.
Okay.
You know?
I just can't believe it. You've done all this. Unbelievable.
Well, after 12 years of reading, and I read every book that I could find on information, and while we're talking about
a good book?
information, this is one of the best books out there, one of the newest books that have been written in a long time about Purple Martins. It's called The Purple Martin Journey by Andrew Troyer, and it goes through every phase of Purple Martins, from his childhood all the way through living in Conneautville and problems that he's had, nest checks, things like that. So if you're starting off, this is a good book.
He actually signed.
Good Father's Day.
He actually signed a book for me.
He
did you too?
I have some pictures in here that we took.
Yeah, I did. I can't remember.
So it's a great book.
Pictures, but I had one too. That's a great book.
But
Absolutely.
for Father's Day is coming up, you can order a book. You can have Andy sign it for you, and it's a keepsake. So once the young ones have, that's a good point.
Okay.
Okay, so you're.
I'm right on.
Top.
I'm right on
it.
Okay, which one are we doing first?
So
here?
when you put out a purple martin colony for the first time, you want to try and lure your birds in. And one of the ways of luring birds in is using a songbird, a dawn song, or daytime chatter. Now these are actual recordings of an active colony, and they actually draw birds down to your location to look at your
You have
housing.
seen that. If there's birds flying around, and if you put out a recording of this, and you've seen them actually take advantage of this.
I have a colony in Allegheny County, it's Collier Township, that I was there on Sunday, and the township official who I've worked with over time with the houses, he was sitting there with his wife, and she asked me, what did a purple martin sound like? And I pulled out my phone, I pulled up Dawn Song, Purple Martin Dawn Song. I started playing on my phone, and within 30 seconds, a martin was flying over our head.
Are you making this up?
I'm not making it up.
Oh my Lord.
It really helps to draw purple martins down.
I think you're over the edge.
There was a guy at our meeting, at Lakeland area Purple Martin meeting on Saturday, who said he turned on his songbird magnet, which is also sold by, I think, the PMCA and Troyers. It's a digital recording that you can plug in, and it comes on at daybreak. There's a photo sensor in there, and it will start playing, and it will lure birds down to your colony.
But you could do it just with your phone.
You can do it with your phone, or I started years ago with a boom box, and I put these in the boom box, and they would play from, one of the big old boom boxes. So it's one of the best things to do if you're starting a new colony to get it started is playing the songbird magnet or the dawn song or the daytime chatter.
What's the difference between daytime?
One is when you have an active colony, the oldest males usually will fly up into the sky at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they sing, and it helps to draw new birds that are migrating into the colony because they want to increase the size. They're such a social bird. And that's why you have so many different gourds together or martins, because they're such a social bird. They want to be with purple martins with their group. So they actually go up early in the morning prior to dawn and sing, hoping to pull more birds down into their colony.
What's the difference between the purple martin lure and the purple martin daytime chatter? Both the same? Pretty
much both the same. One is this is the daytime that an active colony that they're singing like at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and the other one would be the dawn song that they sing prior to dawn. But it is amazing, what they do to draw birds in.
But let's also talk about something. I don't know where we are on time here, but we also want to talk about whenever you actually take the time to get the feed whenever we're having a bad season, and you help them get the food that they need.
Okay.
How do you know how to do that, and where do you get that stuff?
Well, I mean, a lot of it I've learned over 15 years or so now. So you have your birds come back early in the spring, which I did this year. We had that cold spell that started on Monday, May 1st, I believe it was. The first day's not bad. They can, if they're healthy, they can live a day or two. The third, fourth day is when they really start to drag. They haven't eaten in a couple days. Their wings start to droop because they start using their breast muscles as nutrients. So you can see them sitting there, and they're just like that. So somewhere along the line, I don't know who, started saying, well, crickets look a lot like a flying insect, so let's fly. And I think a lot of this developed after Hurricane Agnes went through and killed just about every purple martin around. So that we take a spoon, we put a cricket on it, we just flip it up in the air. And if they get so hungry, sooner or later you can see them looking at the crickets going by. Sooner or later, somebody will take off and grab their cricket.
Or they'll go to the ground and get them too.
Well, in most cases, they want to do it because they're so intent on a flying insect type of thing. So once one starts to do it, others will start doing it.
What else besides crickets? There was something else, corn something, or what else you feed them?
At some point, somebody ran out of crickets or whatever, and they decided to use scrambled eggs. We went through 18 dozen of eggs.
Scrambled eggs?
Scrambled eggs in that
Egg
period.
best.
The cheapest eggs you can buy, but between May 1st and May
heavens.
5th or 6th, we went through 18 dozen of eggs and 2,000 crickets. Now I had 50 some birds back at that point. And you would just go out there and you'd fling the eggs up, and they would take the eggs. Some of them would take it and then spit it out because they said this isn't a bug. But if they didn't learn to take the eggs at that point, they were going to die off. And we had about 7 die off at our colony, but there was hundreds that died off in northwestern Pennsylvania, and a lot others in Ohio and New York as well.
If people don't have the time or the energy or for whatever reason can't do all this, can they support the Purple Martin Conservation Association by making donations? Is it nonprofit?
It's a nonprofit.
So they can make donations?
They can make donations.
They can put it in their will.
They can
do whatever they want to
Yep.
get some help for them.
Yep, they're into the scientific research of it. They're into the landlords, helping landlords across the country. So they really have been beneficial in incrementing in increasing the Purple Martin population across the country.
Are there, the program that you're doing for us today, of course, that's going to be available on the web. We can put it out for everybody to also see, and it's going to be on YouTube. But they can also get copies of programs like this if they want to learn about it? Where should someone start? I don't know a thing. Where do I start? Do I get the book, or do I get this thing here that you talked about?
You could do both. You could get the Purple Martin Journey from Andrew Troyer. You could get the free informational pamphlet from the PMCA. You could, join, the Purple Martin Conservation Association. Get this update magazine. There are, since the internet came along, there is a ton of information out there. The Purple Martin Conservation Association has a web page, Facebook page.
Absolutely.
There's Purple Martin Fanatics. I'm part of that group. We have over 2,100 members. There's other landlord groups out there, Ohio Purple Martins. We have Lakeland Area Purple Martin Association on Facebook. So there's a ton of information out there.
People know that I do an awful lot with therapy dogs, which is the love of my life, but so many times the people, not necessarily in all the nursing facilities, but some of the new ones like Connect 55 and places like that are new, that people just don't have a place to do stuff like this. These are people that probably could help by making some donations or finding out more information. Certainly would love to know more about this.
Right. We put the Lakeland area put a Purple Martin gourd up at Rolling Fields, and I do notice people when I'm up there checking, they're out looking at the birds. Actually, this year I'm supposed to meet with a person up there to put a camera in one of their gourds, and they will get that to go across the TVs that are within the building, so the people and the
neat.
People can watch it.
What have we forgotten? Anything?
Well,
I feel so lucky to get all this knowledge from you. You just knows it all.
Wait,
what is this? Looks like something to catch my chipmunks.
Well, if you have a problem with a house bear or whatever in a T14, you can actually take the tray out, put this in there.
Oh, that would fit in here.
And that would be a trap that would fit in there.
So we could take a tray out like this.
You could take a tray out, and this should fit in there.
It's going to be funny if it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
It does.
And then you just close it up, and you would move it over to the left side on this one. And a bird goes in there, sets a trap, and then you capture the house sparrow.
If you go on the website for Purple Martins, is there a group of people that if I have a question, I can put a question on there and someone will answer it for me?
Yes.
Some sites have that.
Well,
like it's called the community like or something like that.
Well, there's the PMCA forum that they call, and they have question and answers. And any Facebook page, pretty much, that we deal with, whether it's Lakeland or Purple Martin Fanatics, you can put a question on there, and people will, give their experiences and what they feel that you should do to correct the problem.
Wow. How we wish we had more time.
One last thing. This is what they're calling a starling stopper. They've noticed that some, especially in the South, starlings, European starlings, have been breaching this exit or entrance. So they come out with this entrance to put over the tunnel, and that should guarantee that starlings can't
quite get in. They're bigger.
They're a little bigger, so if the hole's a little bit too big, but some are getting to be smaller, whether they're breeding and just downsizing a little bit. But this is a way to keep starlings out of your housing.
And that can go on to this?
That would go on to a tunnel, yes, like the front of this gourd here.
I don't think mine comes off.
They all should come off.
Oh, I'll have to look at
Now,
mine.
we just put some down at Lake Wilhelm in Goddard State Park that they've had just a terrible starling problem down there. So we just put some these tunnels on and these starling stoppers to hopefully get a colony started down there.
Maybe I can talk you into doing another program about this, because your knowledge is just phenomenal, and what you brought and all your examples, you're good. I'm glad I found you a long time ago in Lakeland area. I don't have the time, but I certainly read your emails, and I certainly have the Purple Martin houses up too. So
I put a lot of time into it over the years.
Oh my gosh, yes,
unbelievable.
I have. Do you wear that hat when you're out there too?
Not that hat. I saved that for special occasions, but I do have some dirty hats that I wear that are the PMC.
What is this?
Okay.
Prognosticator.
All right.
And wait, and this here.
Yep.
Ta-da!
So when we start to have young, we record the nests on here. So I would record the different things.
Oh my gosh.
Here's a sheet from last year. This is from one of my colonies. Now there's 14 different pages here from 14 colonies that I've done, and I fill them out.
And what day you send it in?
And I send it into the PMCA so they know how many birds that we have fledged. But here's forms that you can get on the PMCA's website, and it's not complicated. They have directions on the back, and this is what they call a prognosticator. If your first egg, well, my first egg was born, today is Tuesday. My first egg was Monday, because I checked. So on May 2nd, Sunday was
the 7th and the 14th.
14th.
Two ones, yeah.
So if I have 5 eggs and they started on the 14th, I know that hatching begins on June 2nd and the earliest possible fledged date is on June 28th. So I record this for every nest that I have, so that when I go in there, I know exactly how old the birds are pretty much in my nests or in my gourds before I open them up.
What do you do for these birds in the summer when you're in Florida, or in the winter?
Well, they're in Amazon. Yeah, I do.
You keep on reading.
Andy Troyer and I did a presentation in Sarasota this winter down there.
Oh, wow. Unbelievable.
So
nothing else you want to add?
My mind is always kind of Purple Martins.
I know.
If I'm down there, I'm thinking Purple Martins.
I know, and we've talked about being a nonprofit. We've talked about making donations. We've talked about Troyer and Conneautville. We talked about where you have other gourds around the area. We talked about the different groups they can be with, and that's all going to be on the DVD. People can go to the YouTube and find this. Yep. Send it out to all your friends. If you know anybody that's crazy about this stuff, all you have to do is go to YouTube, find it, and shoot that information on to people so more people know about this.
My email and my contact phone
it's
number
all on there.
Will be on the contact list. They can call me, they can email me, text me,
right,
and I can help them out. I was out there at one point in 2008 where there was a cold spell and we found 10, 15 birds dead at the learning center. And I was like, what do I do? And I didn't have anybody to ask back then. But I've been in that situation, so if you get in that situation, you can always call me and I'll help you through it.
Nothing else you want to add?
Maybe we'll be back with a nest check or something.
We might have to try that because we know a lot of places we could go and we'll drag our cameraman with us.
There are a lot of places at Pontotoc that have active colonies.
Right.
And they're practically full.
We'll have to do that.
The Linesville Spillway, where the ducks walk on the fish's back, which everybody knows, has 36 gourds there. And there'll be at least 30 pairs there.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.